McConnell cut a deal with Schumer in the first place. McConnell had originally said that Democrats would have had to go at this alone, and they would have had to figure out how to raise or suspend the debt ceiling alone, and Republicans would not aid in this. But earlier this week, he cut a deal with Schumer to pass a bill so that they could suspend the debt ceiling until December, and that is what happened and why conservatives are angry. So lots of divides here that happened in the Senate last night, lots of anger from rank and file members. But it's important to note that this has only bought Democrats time until they have to deal with this permanently. And McConnell has argued that by doing this, now Democrats have time to deal with raising the debt ceiling using a very complicated process, using budget reconciliation, which means they could include this in a budget bill and pass it using a simple majority. And the important thing here is they would have to put a number on where they want to raise the debt ceiling to. And Democrats would have to own that. That is why McConnell did this. Also, he was concerned that Democrats would have to change filibuster rules so that the raising the debt ceiling would happen using a simple majority, and he did not want that either. So it was really a crunch time here, and that is why they did this. Laura, Christine?
Daniela Diaz, thank you so much for all your reporting as usual. So the midnight deadline has come and gone. 4 of Donald Trump's most loyal aides dodging subpoenas from the January 6th Select Committee. A Trump lawyer told them not to cooperate, according to the Washington Post. The former president suggests he will try to assert executive privilege to keep House investigators from gathering insurrection evidence, a tactic that led to this warning from the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Dick Durbin.
I would suggest modestly follow the law instead of the ravings of this former president. He doesn't have the power to pardon you anymore, and probably, I hope, never will again. And be careful. Follow the law, even if the president is begging you to stay away because of the evidence that you might present.
We get more this morning from CNN's Jessica Schneider.
Laura and Christine, the former president and his legal team are starting to set up major roadblocks for the January 6th Select Committee that could eventually lead to lengthy litigation. The Washington Post is reporting that an attorney for the former president is instructing 4 former aides who have been subpoenaed by the committee not to comply. Thursday night was the deadline, and it's not clear how the committee will move forward, especially because they want 4 of those key members of the Trump administration to come in for depositions next week. Now, the 4 Trump allies seemingly already defying these subpoenas for documents are former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, former Deputy Chief of Staff Dan Scavino, former Chief Strategist Steve Bannon, and Kash Patel, who was the former Chief of Staff to the then acting Secretary of Defense. Now, we've also learned that Trump's team has indicated he will exert executive privilege to prevent the committee from getting any information from people who worked at the White House. But despite all of this, the committee is still moving forward. Lawmakers just issued 2 new rounds of subpoenas to more people who were involved in planning the Stop the Steal rally on January 6th. That was the precursor to the Capitol attack. One of the subpoenas issued is to the Stop the Steal group leader, Ali Alexander. He actually previously claimed that he worked closely with Republican congressmen planning the rally, and that he also communicated with the White House. So all of those major points of interest for the Select Committee. We'll see what they get. Guys.
Jessica, thank you for that. Subverting justice in more ways than one. A new report from the Senate Judiciary Committee that reveals that Trump tried 9 times to get his Justice Department to undermine the 2020 election. And it wasn't just Trump. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows also pressed a Justice Department lawyer to investigate bogus claims of election fraud. The report also describes this surreal 3-hour meeting in the Oval with Trump floating a plan to install Jeffrey Clark. That's another Justice Department lawyer, one perceived as perhaps more loyal. He was supposed to be installed as the acting attorney general to somehow, some way nullify Joe Biden's win. The former president was talked out of this move after being told it would lead to mass resignations at the DOJ.
All right, vaccinations are key to the economic recovery and to recovering all those jobs lost in the pandemic. The hope is that widespread vaccination rates and rising wages will get people back to work, especially frontline workers. President Biden in Illinois Thursday saying mandates work. They cut the number of unvaccinated Americans by 1/3 from 95 million people to 67 million.
I'm calling on more employers to act.
My message is require your employees to get vaccinated. With vaccinations, we're going to beat this pandemic finally. Without them, we face endless months of chaos in our hospitals, damage to our economy, and anxiety in our schools, and empty restaurants, and much less commerce.
A key report today on the job situation. Economists predict 500,000 jobs were added back to the economy in the month, and the jobless rate slipped to 5.1%. Remember, August jobs growth was the slowest since January. 500,000 jobs in September would be more than double August report. Perspective here, the economy is still down 5.3 million jobs since the pandemic began. So we've got to start picking up the pace here. There's a lot of hope that maybe these numbers will be strong today because kids are physically in schools again. So some parents might have been able to get back into the workforce because they're not physically taking care of children all day long. But the child care component of this is still a real problem.
You're going to be on top of it at 8 sharp, right? All right, still ahead for you. The manhunt for Brian Laundrie continues as more information comes to light about his movements before he went missing. We have the latest on that case next.
Ready, steady, go. A new global financial hub is coming to drive forward the world of finance. The Istanbul Financial Center, opening in 2022, will create new opportunities for the investors of tomorrow. The Istanbul Financial Center, a formula for success.
This is the 100 Club, our look at companies that are 100 years old or older. Levi's jeans have weathered gold rushes and depressions. They've been part of movements to promote peace and tear down walls. They've been in movies, on album covers, and worn by everyone from Marilyn Monroe to Steve Jobs.
I think part of the love and romance of Levi's really begins with their origins. They began as workmen's pants. Come on in.
Tracy Panic is the archivist for Levi Strauss & Company.
We're going to go up here to XX. So here we have the oldest pair of blue jeans in the world. We call them XX. That's what they were referred to before we gave them the lot number 501. This is a very young picture of Levi. He arrived in America in the 1840s.
Strauss decided to expand his family's dry goods business from New York to the West Coast, and in 1853 formed the Levi Strauss & Company.
This is the patent that was granted to Jacob Davis and Levi Strauss & Company.
And in 1873, the blue jean was born.
No matter where you are in the world, there is a clear pattern on how governments and leaders use the power in their hands. Will this change Europe? Demonstrations erupted over unemployment. There could be some very serious national security questions. Living and working in the US right now gives me an important perspective as an outsider looking in. I'm Robin Kerno in Atlanta, and this is CNN.
Is ready to push the boundaries and showcase the world's latest innovations.
It's an extraordinary playground to invent, experiment.
But Expo